and welcome back to another episode of The Male Perspective. I am your host, Lana Reid, and today, on this day, I have with me a gentleman by the name of Thomas E. Huntington. He is the founder of SoupBowl Network LLC, an organization that raises awareness about charities, raises awareness and donation for charities in his local area. Looking forward to hearing more about the awesome and amazing work that he is doing in his community. But first and foremost, as I always do, Mr. Huntington, I'd like to take a quick moment to pause, say thank you to you for making time for me today. Time is a gift. Once we give it, we cannot get it back. So I appreciate you carving out this space in your day for little old me. And with that, sir, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Really appreciate all the work you're doing, especially for mental health for Black men. That can't be said enough. But thank you for having me.
Awesome. Yes, I love you guys, and I'm just trying to, do what I can. But let me get started because I have a short amount of time with you today, and I try to pack everything I can into such a short space. But as I start today, sir, I heard a rumor that there are people in this world that call you Reaper the Storyteller.
Yes, indeed.
So if
yes,
I could
indeed.
trouble you to tell me how that all came about and what is that all about?
Yes, for sure. So basically, well, let me start way at the beginning. I've been around music all my life. I literally was living in a church for a while. Grew up with gospel music, so I've always been a singer. And I tried to go that route. It didn't quite work out with the groups. And I kind of just start going into writing poetry. Love writing music, but wasn't really going to do anything with it. It was just something I love doing. One of my friends that I started rapping with, he was like, "Oh, why don't you put what you're writing to music?" And I was like, "I don't know about all that." And he's like, "Well, why don't we just freestyle then? Just kind of get you used to doing it." It's like, all right, that sounds good. Well, when I start freestyling, I was like, I kind of like this. This is kind of nice. Plus, I get to do a little music, add some singing in there, things like that. And what ended up happening is back in the day, there was a whole lot of battling and a lot of, how that goes. So
you must be in my age bracket then.
Oh yeah.
I'll be 53 in July.
See, I'm going on 46 this year. So we're very close.
I got your beat. Okay, go ahead.
And so I was like, okay, so we're just gonna battle rap. And when I start doing that, people start saying, "Man, he's a reaper. He's killing people. He's just slaying people." So I was like, I kind of like that name. All right, we'll go with that name. And then my friend start really telling me to write it down because I'm a storyteller. And for me, it has to make sense from the beginning to the end and tie it all together. Yeah, sure. So I start writing to music. And when I started doing that, I was like, all right, this is great. And originally my name was supposed to be Dirty Draws because I thought that was I thought that was an awesome name. I don't know why I thought that was an awesome name, but I thought it was awesome because I was like, okay, I did a few little shows. Like I just did a song and a song at a few shows, and I was trying to get Dirty Draws to catch on because Reaper seemed, there was just so many Reapers. Everybody, I'd be lost in the shuffle. But at the shows, people start calling me the storyteller because of what I do. And the whole concept of Reaper is just like anything I do. It's true stories. But to keep people's identity safe, because some of these stories, I knew the person. I was pretty close with them. So what I would do is I'd use real people and change their occupations or change where they're living. And it's still real people, but real people from different places to bring a story together. And try to always look at it from a different aspect, a different angle that maybe you never thought of. Maybe instead of, for example, I have a story about domestic violence. but I
Mm.
tell it from the child side. I don't tell it
Okay.
from the parent side. Just things like that, because I think giving different perspectives lets you look at the whole picture a different way
So true.
and see how problems, social issues affect everybody in all kinds of ways, whether you think they're paying attention or not.
So true. So I love that. I love that. So true. Well, I'm going to continue down this journey of Reaper the Storyteller, sir.
There we
And
go.
the wonderful work that this man does. I was preparing for today's show, and I was on your YouTube channel,
Ah,
and I was listening to you tell the story of Itsy Bitsy Spider and Humpty Dumpty.
yeah.
You, sir, are a pleasure to my soul. I mean, just a pleasure to my soul. Just a true, true gem. I just chuckled. I just laughed. I was like,
Yeah.
okay, I'm a grown woman, but that was wonderful. It was so entertaining. How does your mind create this whole back and forth? It was just wonderful. How does that come?
Well, I've always been, my mind, I have anxiety. And I didn't even realize I had anxiety. I didn't know what it was called, even though it's weird when you work in mental health all the time, you're almost too close to the
Mm,
problem. I had somebody that I used to work with that has severe anxiety tell me after a couple of panic attacks, you have anxiety. That's what you have. So my brain never, even while we're talking now, my brain is thinking of all kinds of things. That's just how I've always been.
okay.
I did when I was in high school. I got approached because I used to do this one year I did this thing called Death of the Black Man, Birth of the N-word. And
Okay.
basically what I was trying to do is bring awareness to Black issues. I start bringing Black speakers to the school, things like that. I end up running into a group called improv, and and it's not like the jokey improv you think it is. It's more of using social issues in an acting setting to express what's going on.
Okay.
And what we would do is we'd have a retreat where we all get together, we open completely up. And that's where I learned people just looking at somebody, you have no idea what's going on. And no matter how much money they have, no matter how much influence they have, you just have no idea. And that was the first time I really got to see people open up their soul. And you have to do that because we would stay in character and act out these things and scenarios of bullies and gangsters and death and all kinds of things. And sometimes they leave us in character to get that kind of that dialogue going back and forth, and people would get out of their chairs and try to come beat us up in a story because we would make it as real as possible. And the only way that worked is us revealing to ourselves our past and history, because I've been through a lot, they've been through a lot. And then you come together as it just makes the team tighter, and it makes what you're doing more beneficial. And so since growing up doing that, and then I start teaching classes on characterization and how to do the characters. And I learned a lot of the skills from that, because that was more, it was kind of formal training, but not. And it had to
Mhm.
be fluid. It had to be on the fly sometimes, and you had to just improv. But the topics were so serious that we ended up winning a PSA award for gun violence. We did shows at the women's prison. We did shows at the Capitol for teachers. We did shows all over the place, and we're doing shows in front of people being them. So that's it's a different feeling to be doing that and them seeing themselves, and then have to have a conversation about that afterwards, because you always have to. So I've always kind of used that concept with everything I do. If it's Reaper the Storyteller, then it's always going to be true stories, social issues. And I'm just going to give it how it is. Reaper, I just came out with a song called Help, and I'm being more personal with my stories, because I'm not usually I'm not really a out there person with my own personal stuff, but now I'm trying to open up more because I think I have plenty of stories of things I went through that can possibly help somebody get through
Mhm.
some tough times. And but Reaper is totally different from Soup Bowl. I revamped Reaper, and I'm about to bring a lot of music out. And some of the music is very, very difficult subjects. And I'm coming from the perspective, I tell it from their perspective. So a lot of the words, the language is really rough and tough, but
Okay.
it all has a purpose. I'm saying it for a reason. I'm saying it to not only expose and bring light to this darkness that's going on, but also give you a perspective from someone that's going through things that you might not relate to, that you can't understand. Well, why did they kill him? Well, why did they commit
Mhm.
suicide? Well, there's multiple reasons why, and you can't. It's so easy, especially if you haven't been through it or you haven't experienced it. It's so easy to kind of just say, "Oh, just get over it," just buck up, and you could do that. And now I want to show you in almost a visual way through the audio, through videos, that it's not always what it seems,
That's
and
true.
open your mind to a whole different way of looking at it, different angles.
That's true. That's true. I mean, especially when we're talking about mental health,
Mhm.
a lot of people really don't understand the dynamics, don't understand, the people that are going through it, what they're actually struggling with. Some
Yep.
people do believe you could just brush it off, just go eat some ice cream, you'll be okay.
Yep.
But like you mentioned, you have this new video out, Help, and it's a personal story. And I listened to the whole thing, and I think that has to do with some of the work you do with Soup Bowl. I was wondering, could I
Yep.
trouble you to share what Help is about? I think the audience needs to hear that.
Oh, for sure. Help's been a lifelong struggle. And growing up, I was still like my grandmother. She still worked she was still doing work for white people in that kind of, I'm doing laundry for them. It wasn't
Ah,
like
okay,
I do you,
okay,
if you know what I'm getting at.
okay.
So they grew up from that kind of era. So I
Mhm.
had that experience around. Plus, I had it was 80s, 90s, 70s. Wasn't the best for us. There wasn't a lot of good things happening at that time. And you got to remember too, there wasn't cell phones, there wasn't video. So it was a whole lot of having to just deal with stuff. And a lot of the times it got pushed aside, and people didn't, the diagnosis wasn't really there. It was kind of a taboo to talk about mental health,
Mhm.
or that's just, oh, they just crazy. They just crazy.
Mhm.
And they just shrug it off and all that. So I was never diagnosed young. So I grew up with my depression. I call it going into a funk. Just to kind of, sometimes I'll be like, no, I'm just in a funk, and I'll
Mhm.
get over it. But I started noticing that my mood swings would be so severe. People would have no idea. I'd cry all the way to work and then get to work and just work all day, or I'd cry when I wake up, or people would think I'd be going out just because of the way I am. I would think it was better, it was easier for me to hide things because people
Mhm.
just assume things about me. They assume I'm just out and about and doing all this stuff because I'm just the way I am. But that's at work or that's around you. But in personal, I'll sit there all weekend in one place and just be in the bed all day. And people had no idea that was even happening.
Mhm.
The older I got, the more I start realizing, the more the anxiety start kicking in, because now you're going into adulthood, and now you're dealing with bills and all this other stuff, and then other things that happen in my life, like the house getting shot up, and um, having kids with respiratory problems and all kinds of stuff happen. My anxiety start going up a
Okay.
lot more. Then that's when I start trying to figure out what to do with that. Now, since I wasn't really taught to do the therapy thing and I wasn't really into that, uh, when I started working in a group home, that was my first job. And I was like, I love this. This is great. And it's definitely not for everybody. Definitely
Yep.
not. Most of the people that I worked with have very severe behaviors. They put you in the hospitals behaviors, very big people. And since I'm a big Black dude, I got put in the worst places possible because they assign you to houses. So I started off at the bottom, working with very, very tough people and working with people that don't speak. So the communication is, I had to read faces, I had to figure out what they're doing, because really a behavior, if you think about it, is just communication. Whether you're just mad at somebody or you're not mad, we put the negative or the positive on it. It's just a behavior.
Yes.
But trying to decipher what exactly that message is was the tough part. And to do that kind of work, you have to have programs. You have to have individualized programs. You have to have programs from that they work with the therapists or counselors, nutritionists, all kinds of things. And what I start doing pretty early is realizing that these programs, that because I start writing them too, that why am I not using these programs? Why am I not doing the same thing? If I'm teaching someone, for example, to tie a shoe, and people I don't think realize it takes a lot of patience, because you know what? Actually, for example, there was this one kid, one of my buddies, love that kid, used to have terrible anxiety, like crazy anxiety, and he just happened to be a big kid. So
Okay.
when he grabs you, it's a whole different story. Lots of nails, kind of like Wolverine, just really, really hard to deal with. And he is a bolter and runner. There's a huge difference between somebody that just gets away with you and wanders off and bolting. He was so fast that if you didn't catch him right away, you'd have to get in the car and the other person would follow him because he'd just be so fast. And basically his parents want him to do one thing, and that's just sit down and eat. That's all they wanted. They wanted him to sit down at dinner, and it took years just to get him to sit down in one place and eat. Years to do that. But at the same time, that can unravel with a couple of weeks with new people that don't follow the program. And having these examples around and seeing that because some people said, oh, it never happened or never do it. It's just, and seeing that happen, you can't unsee that anymore. You can't say that, oh, that nothing's possible or it's impossible. I've seen people do some of the most incredible things I've ever seen. I've seen people and children from situations where they've been locked up in a room because, like I said, coming back from back in the day, we're talking about institutions and not talking about individual care. So we're talking about just massive putting people together, no real diagnosis being wrong, things getting confused and giving them the wrong meds, things like that. After doing all that and realizing that if there's a process, first of all, you got to admit what the problem is. You got to know there's a problem and want to fix it, because nobody can help you make you do it. It doesn't work that way. And I got to a point where I was like, okay, it's been months. I'm sitting in the house. I'm not talking to nobody. If I'm not at work, then I disappear and nobody even knows I'm around. And I just got tired of doing that so many times. And at the time, there wasn't a lot of options for mental health. Mental health has just recently, I'd say in the past few years, been added to healthcare. It wasn't even part of it. So that's a whole different thing. And I didn't know how to look. So what I would do is I'd make my own programs. I'd make programs for myself. And I start following these programs. And it's basically, I learned that a lot of our problems is through habits, is through just doing the same thing. You think you're doing something a little different because you went to somebody's house, but you just went to somebody else's house. You're not doing anything different. You're not changing it up. So I had to really face a lot of myself and get out of my own way. And the only way to do that, at least for me, because of the way my brain works and I'm very logical and have to put it in a row. So I made programs for myself, stuck to the programs, and now now it's much easier to deal with. I can feel when I'm starting to go into that route. I can feel when I'm starting to close off, and I can adjust it now. But
Okay.
there's a lot of the
That was my
time.
next question. That was my next question. Now that you're on this side, what coping strategies have you put into place to keep your headspace in a healthy place?
Well, I know one thing is I have to stay busy. If I get in my head, that's the worst place for a lot of people to be, is with themselves. A lot of times, a lot of negative thoughts come in, and what I what I call it is it's almost like a wheel with flypaper on it that spins in your head. And for people with anxiety and depression that have these negative thoughts, once you get one thought in there and it spins around and you keep loading up these thoughts, they just keep going, and there is no other thing to think of because that's all you're thinking about. But if you can interrupt that thought, if you can just knock it off for 2 seconds, or you can just think, why am I thinking this? Is this even true? Then I start using it like almost like a jury and a judge. And I start questioning myself. So why are you feeling this way? Oh, nobody likes you? Where'd you get that from? Who said that? And once you start asking yourself questions and you really face yourself, it's hard to deny the answers because it's you. So I just start being real with myself. I start knowing my limitations. I start knowing when I need more sleep, when I need to take care of myself. Sleep was a really bad thing when I was younger. I used to stay up for days sometimes. I used to see shadow people and have conversations that never happened. And that on top of being depressed, and that on top of having conversations that were negative that never actually happened, it just compiled everything. I think my approach to everything now, and even with people, is try small stuff. Don't swing for the fences and all that. Just try small stuff. Try the things that immediately affect your life, that immediately interrupt your work or your relationships. Try working on little things you can do, because I think if you look at the whole picture, it's just hard, it's overwhelming. And for somebody that's already stressed out, that's the worst thing to do, is be like, let's work on everything. It doesn't work that way. That's too much. So just start
like
out
I
small.
said, how do you eat elephant? How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. One bite at a time.
Yep. It's so true.
So let me get on the pathway of SoupBowl Network, because we will never get there if we keep on chatting like I know we can do.
Oh yeah, I'll ramble.
SoupBowl Network. Wonderful stuff you're doing over there.
Thank you.
Your videos are just amazing. Joy. Like, I was like, oh, I needed that smile today. I really needed that. How did it come about, and what goes on at SoupBowl Network? Because I mean, I know, but the audience doesn't know.
Oh, for sure. First of all, I appreciate that, because it's always good to get feedback. Basically, SoupBowl started when I moved to Florida a while ago because I wanted to be by the beach. Florida was one of those places, or the beach, I should say, was one of those places where my brain would be quiet. And I've never had that before. The first time I went to the beach, I've never actually realized that my head never stops talking to me. And that was the first time I heard nothing but the ocean. So I was like, I have to get back there. Plus my mom and sister live there. And I'm a mom's boy, so I had to go back there. So when I went there, there was a specialized, I went and applied for schools because at that time I was working in a special needs school. And when I left to go there, Florida's a mess in all kinds of ways when it comes to jobs and all this stuff. I'm just gonna say it. So it was tough to find a special needs. So I was going to just be a paraeducator in just a school or regular school, whatever that is. And I interviewed with all these schools, and they're like, "Oh yeah, come in, it'd be easy." But there was this one school that said it will not be easy, and we had plenty of fights, and we've had the cops were here, we've had teachers hurt, we've had teachers leave. We need somebody that is heavy into mental health work, but also has worked with very violent people. Because to do the type of work I've done, and even mental health work, I know holds and all kinds of stuff.
Gotcha.
So they were like, "We want you, but this is a made up position." They had a choice. What's her name? Diana. I'm horrible with names, but awesome principal. And she had a meeting with her teachers and said, "Look, we have enough money that we can either get another teacher or we can do something else, because this isn't working. We need somebody that's going to be in the halls, but we also need somebody to go in and assess the situation, because sometimes the teacher needs to be pulled out. Sometimes they're the problem and they need somebody that can mediate all that." I said, "Sign me up." It was, yes, please. I want to do that. I like the hard work. I like the more difficult cases, because that's also part of me. I like to figure out things, and I think I have a different approach to doing it, and I have the patience to not yell at them and all that. So I was doing that when COVID hit.
Okay.
And then when COVID hit, of course, they shut down everything. The school shut down. So for me to keep my part, because I worked closely with, which was sad, because right before it closed down, they wanted to give me my own classroom. They wanted me to work with mental health work, social issues, feelings and emotions. We set up the curriculum, everything, and then it shut down. And I was like, "Oh, so sad." But I still worked heavily with the guidance counselors, which were amazing. The assistant principals, all of them awesome people. And so they had me call people. I would just call to see if the kids are doing all right, if they got all their assignments, things like that. And that's when I realized that things are so not equal and people are not ready. There was cable companies that was supposed to give free internet, for example. Didn't do that.
Okay.
End up cutting that off. That we lost students that way. There was people that didn't have access to laptops and all that. Lost those kids. There's kids that they're verbal, but I would even say they might be on the spectrum. So they need that in-person instruction. Lost them. I even had a father that was really sad when Trump decided to do the Haitian ban. He was stuck in Hades and couldn't get to his family, and I would talk to him every other week, and he would ask me about his kid, but then they didn't have enough money to keep the phone on, and I couldn't tell him. It kept going on and more problems, and I was like, this is a problem. This is a huge problem. A lot of people I talked to were going through some serious mental issues, some serious problems. So I was like, okay, I need to do something. Because when I went down there, I was supposed to do music and all that. Obviously, I can't. So I have to do something. So what I've decided to do is do soup bowl music. I always like the idea of a soup kitchen. It's a place where you can get a hearty meal and you get conversation. And I grew up around soup kitchens, the way they used to be. And it was a great way to make people that are going through homelessness and unsheltered, they can actually experience conversations. We serve them food. It was a beautiful thing. So I've always loved that idea. So I brought that over to the music, and what I would do is pick 3 songs that are more inspirational and loving and caring. And then I would break them up with me doing it like a radio show, because I always wanted to do that. So I would say little kind things. I'd put a shout out to healthcare workers or teachers or whatever, and then I'd wrap it up with a loving uh, something positive at the end. And
Mhm.
I did that just to try it out once. That took off. People were like, yes, I needed something to just, like you said, I needed just a smile. I just need a break. There's a lot going on. And I was like, okay, well, I'll just keep doing it. Kept doing that. That was great. And I was like, well, this is nice, but I want to do more. There
Mhm.
needs to be, I want to take this to a different level, because now since COVID hit, I don't know if I can go back in a classroom because the type of stuff I do is so physical and you have
Gotcha.
to be so
Okay.
close. So what I decided to do, I was like, okay, well, I want to start a company then, but I don't know what I want to do. So, and I'm not really the best artist or anything. So what I did was, I had my daughter, which is a phenomenal artist. She helped me with an art pad because I always doodled and drew stuff when I was working with the kids, but I never
Mhm.
did nothing with it. So I started taking those and working with the pad and made some stuff. It's like, okay, so I got a little store. I'll do that. But I can't just sell stickers and music. I got to do something else because that's just part of who I am. So the point, like, if you look at it, is the heart inside, the heart outside, and it
Mhm.
represents. I want to remind people that they should always feel love within and always recognize the love with around them. So that's why the hearts are like that. So I decided, it's like, I tried to figure out, well, what do I do with that? How do I promote that? So I decided to do what I call charity events now. And I was like, okay, I want to help somebody. Let me make it very clear. One of the things I didn't like about people that do charity work is there's proceeds that go. But a lot of people don't know that they usually, let's say they have a concert, the money goes to the artist first, then it goes
True.
to the venue first,
True.
then it goes to them. And by the time they actually get the money, you don't know how much they actually get. But when they report it as a whole. So what I
Yes.
decided to do is I'm going to put it right up front. It's 30%. It's a great price because that's definitely, I have to give up to do
Mhm.
that. And it's right in the front, so but I also wanted to but when I was doing that, I said, you know what I should do? I should go to community groups and see what kind of needs they have. Like, where can I help? Since I have
Okay.
a lot of mental health work, and what I found was you can't find anything. If you look there's numbers like 211 and 411 where you're supposed to get these services, but if you actually go to the site, there's links that don't work. There's shady looking websites that don't go nowhere. There's So I was like, this is the problem, that people can't find nothing. And people always ask me, well, where should I go to go get this kind of help or this kind of help? And since I work in mental health, so I was like, why don't I put that on the website?
Mhm.
So I took months because it literally is not, because I used to tell people, oh, just look it up. No, it takes a lot of time to find the right link, to vet the right things. And then a lot of things you go to, you don't even know what they do because it's not
Mhm.
there and you have to read through it. So what I decided to do is I want to make it to where it's like I'm looking at it. So I
Okay.
want it up front. I want to know what they do. I want to know a little history about them and how to contact them, and I want the links all to work. So what I did
Okay.
was I went through every single site I read, and every site that's up there has been vetted for me, which means I've read every single thing, went to every single tab, checked every link, and then put it on the site. So when you go to that site and you go to look for it, you'll find it right away. You'll know exactly what they do, and you can keep it moving. And then I just bring it over, and then I was like, well, that's good, but I want to do more. I guess that's just how I am. So I decided I put my first, and still my charity of the month is Unsheltered Utah. They do awesome work for they kind of are the middle ground between being in the streets and being housed. They take care of food and different kind of services. They help with legislation too, and put that out. So I thought they were perfect. So I went and I went to their website to go, just donate like everybody else. I was gonna just put a video, said I donated, it's great. But when I went there, I like one thing stuck out to me, and they said, make sure you include can openers with your cans. And I was like, wait a minute, I never thought of that. I always donate cans, but I never donate can openers. And I was like, I wonder, does anybody else know this stuff? And so I start doing videos. That's when it turned into what it is now, where I try to make the donations purposeful.
Okay.
Because there's a lot of times you would think you know what to donate, and that's not at all what you need to donate. And they have an abundance of stuff they don't need, and they can repurpose it, of course, but it makes more sense to make each donation purposeful. So that's what I decided to do with the charity events. The next one that's coming, that my son, which is just like me, he asked me to be part of it, and he wants to be part of it from now on, because he wants to learn how to donate, how the charity works, and how I do what I do. So we're planning an event, and now we're going to start getting people involved, but keep it safe, keep it outside. Lots of different ways to donate, because I just don't think people right now, there's so much going on, and you're being told to call your senator and talk to them, go march over here, go do this. It's very overwhelming. So what I try to do is show you different ways you can donate, not just money, but with time that can help you and help the other person.
Awesome. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Love it. I want to ask a question, and I'm not sure if you could answer it or not, but I'm thinking, since you've been in this field for so long, a lot of people don't understand, because I think one of the things I read that SoupBowl Network does is help low income to no income connect with services.
Yes.
And a lot of people don't understand. They believe that, well, you're low income, no income. There's a nonprofit right in your community. You should just be easy. But what is it that hinders low income, no income from connecting with what they need?
That's a great question. That is a great question. A lot of things. Sometimes it's the person. They don't want to show that they need help. People asking for help is really hard, especially if you've had the means, especially if you've done things for yourself all your life. It's really hard to ask for help. Another thing is what I mentioned earlier, you can't find it. You don't even know where to look. And how do you look for something you've never done? And plus, you don't want your business all in the streets either. So it's really hard to connect. Another problem is that I think is part of the states. They don't do enough outreach. There's not enough that when they do have city council meetings, who knows? They send it to people that have computers. They put it on emails, and that's great, but not everybody has a computer. Not everybody has a flyer. And when it happens, you just got to go. Especially when something as severe as climate change or the virus popping up, it's really hard to kind of just adjust and do that. So yeah, it's really, really tough to, that's what I ran into most of the time, is people just didn't know where it was or how to get a hold of it, or they were ashamed. And that's you got to get out of your own way sometimes.
You know, we are our biggest enemies most of the time. We are our biggest enemies. Well, sir, my 30 minutes go by so fast.
Man, that went fast.
Yeah, and I actually think I've done more than 30 minutes. I'm going to do my random question.
Oh, yay.
And then I'm going to ask you to tell how we connect with you. And
for sure.
Because I saw the video, I think everybody, because everybody needs a wonderful smile every day. So they should be watching you every day.
Yeah, I agree. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay. I'll post something. Sometimes it's music. Sometimes it's poetry. I'm all over the place. Oh, goodness.
When you were a kid, what did you want to be when you grew up?
Comedian. no sense. I thought I was pretty funny. I was good with the comebacks. I don't know if you remember that term, snap. I used to be real good at snapping back. That's probably why I was really good at freestyling. But I was like, yeah, yeah. But then I realized they actually write the stuff, and I can't do that. I'm not good at none of that. I try to write jokes, horrible. Or being a comedian, very, very, you have to have some talent to do that. I'll just say that. For sure. But yeah, comedian.
Timing.
Yep,
Well,
yep.
sir, Reaper the storyteller, how do we connect with you, pick up the products, support you, find out how we can do what you're doing in our local communities? Give us the lowdown. How do we connect with you?
Yes. You can reach me on Facebook, TikTok, Instagram. I don't really do the Snapchat. I don't really do Twitter much, but Instagram, Facebook, and then the company is at SoupBowl Network LLC.com. And that's where, and the store may look a little bare because I've been trying to bring out Reaper, but now since Reaper's out, I'm loading up the store. Gonna have singles, things like that. And Reaper the storyteller, one word. I'm the only one. So you can Google me and you'll find me. Thomas E. Harrington, you can Google me and you'll find me. And you might find stuff I didn't put on there. So
and I heard you say you guys have a community event coming up. When is that scheduled for?
yes. Actually, me and my son, he just started a new job. So we're gonna meet up this Sunday, and it's going to be probably near the end of this month.
Okay.
Probably let me think. So the 30th is Monday. So probably the last weekend of the month. That's when it'll be. And this one will be big. I'm gonna do put out events and all that. For anybody interested that wants to put information out, look at the setup that I have. Everything's color coded, all that, so you know exactly where things are, just to kind of get an example and help people. Because low to no income, really hard to find services. So do that.
Well, sir, I don't know where to begin. I don't know where to end. I love everything that you are doing. I love the energy. I love the commitment. I mean, the world needs more Reaper the storyteller, Mr. Harrington's. I mean, just awesome and amazing. I just love everything that you're doing. So.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate it.
So we'll know me in my corner of the world.
And by the way, I just have to mention, because the people that know me know I saw that. You have a Cookie Monster shirt. I have a Cookie Monster issue. I have a cookie problem. I am literally addicted to cookies. And that's a story for a different time. But I just have to say I love that shirt. Old school Sesame Street. Oh yeah. And my Cookie Monster.
I know I learned from the streets.
Yep. You know it. I was on those same streets.
All righty, dear. I just wish you continued. No, let me stop. Let me reel that back. I'm going to steal your line.
Oh.
Let love and peace be with you.
Oh, nothing but love. Nothing but love. Same to you.
Awesome. That is all for this week's episode of The Male Perspective. I'm your host, Lana Reid, and I will see everybody next time.